Our next reader is a poor brown bee from Humboldt Park. She has almost died 6 times in her life and knows that she is still alive to serve people in communities that could benefit from hearing her stories and brain droppings. She hosts the monthly storytelling show, The Stoop, and her only goal here tonight and any night is hopefully to get one of you to want to share your truest and most authentic self with everyone you meet one day. Check her out at Lily B, that's 2 L's, LILYBE.com, and to learn more about all the different things she does, and put your hands together right now for Lily B.
Yeah, this works. All right. I don't usually write, you guys, but I've been writing, and y'all tell me I need to. So this is this piece is on my website. It's the only piece I have written real time. So here we go. The 4-door black Honda arrives at my house, and I walk out the door, down the stairs, and hop into the back seat of his car. My driver is named Chad, or let's just call him Chad. I refer to all problematic white men as Chads, right? Get into his car, though. I don't know that he's problematic. In fact, he seems very nice. He's an older man, maybe mid-30s, and I can tell by the way that he takes his time to adjust his GPS that he isn't from Chicago. Drivers from Chicago, or those familiar with the city, just pick you up and drive. They don't even look at the GPS. Sorry about that, he says. No worries, I tell him. You have to get situated. Yep, you're up early, he tells me. Yep, gotta make that money, I say with a smile. You and me both, he says. I chuckle a bit and we sit in silence for the next few minutes. He approaches the intersection of Kedzie and North Avenue, where he points to the building that sits on the corner and says, "Check out how big that building is." I say, not even looking up from my phone. I'm not trying to be rude, y'all, but I already know without looking that the building he's referring to is the Armory on the northwest corner of my neighborhood park, Humboldt Park. I've lived here my whole life. I know the fucking Armory, bro. That is a beautiful park, he says, pointing past the Armory to the park that my neighborhood is named after. Yes, I reply. I stare out the window looking at the newly built mini Cubs stadium in the park that wasn't there 10 years ago. I could give Chad more information about the park, but it's too early to be that generous. You know, he says, they say 20, 30 years ago this park wasn't this nice. I mean, I grew up in the burbs and I would hear stories about Humboldt Park, about how it was gang-ridden and nobody wanted to live here. Look at it now, though. You barely see any of the riffraff on the corners of the street anymore. I don't say anything because I don't want to get into this argument again. Pick your battles, Lily, I think. But I still want to hear what this Chad Bourbonite has to say about the neighborhood that I know like La Palma de mi mano, as my mother would say. They've turned this park into something beautiful, he says. I'm impressed. I wouldn't even mind living here. My lips clench. I feel a chill from my head to my feet. Usually this chill means I got to sit back and really think about what my next move is going to be. It's too damn early. I think it's too early to tell this Chad that while he might be right about the improvement made to the park, he is wrong about the riffraff out on the corners. It's too early to tell him that the stories he heard were only half-truths. I want to school him on 80s and 90s gang culture. I want to tell him about the 2 rival gangs from opposite sides of the parks, the Kings and the Disciples, contained their riff-raffery to the park to keep us somewhat safe on our blocks. I want to tell him that despite there being a lot of gangs and violence, most of it remained off the streets because the last thing gangs wanted was for the block to be hot, i.e. crawling with police. It's too fucking early to tell this Chatterberry how I am one of the riffraff, that I spent my entire childhood in this neighborhood. So if anyone knows that it wasn't safe back then, it would be me. That the picture of Humboldt Park wasn't the bullshit narrative his lily white upbringing raised him to believe. And it's definitely way too early to tell this Chadster that the trendy area he's talking about and would be willing to move to one day is not some fad. It's too early to school this Chadlick on the politics of the city and how he is complicit in the displacement of black and brown people that lived here. I don't have the time or patience to tell him that it hurts me to see privileged white families enjoy the park we only dreamed of enjoying. I cannot say that it is sad that even those of us who survived and had children cannot enjoy this upgraded Humboldt Park because the new residents look at us as the outsiders, wondering what we are still doing there. I want so bad to own the fuck out of him, but instead we pull up to my destination, a multi-unit residential building in West Loop. He will never know how lucky he was that I did not say what I wanted to say, but he'll also never know how much he offended me. I slam the door hoping the car window shatters, but it doesn't. As I walk into the building, my petty ass gives him 2 stars so I never get paired with him again. Francisco, the handyman of the building, is hanging out in the lobby, probably waiting on some delivery. He says, "Good morning," and I reply, "No, you're not yet, it isn't." He laughs as he pushes the button to call the elevator for me. I hit the button on the 7th floor and ride the elevator up. I'm in the old elevator on the south side of the building. It has tarps all over the walls and floors. The north side elevator has already been rehabbed, but I suspect that's because most of the new residents live on that side of the building. There are 2 types of residents here: the longtime West Loop residents, who are mostly African American and Middle Eastern immigrants, and the new, wealthy, mainly white young couples and startup families. It's like every multi-unit building in an up-and-coming gentrified neighborhood in Chicago. The old residents get mixed in with the new residents until rents go up and drive out the old residents to make room for more wealthy, mainly white young residents. I work for one of these new young residents as a nanny. The elevator's door open and I walk to the end of the hallway where my nanny family lives. I let myself in with the keys they gave me, and the mom yells, "Good morning," from the bedroom, and she hears the door close behind me. I take off my jacket hanging on the coat rack and make my way to the kitchen where I can hear the baby crawling around. "Luca Dukas," I say as I jump from around the corner to surprise him in the kitchen. Luca Dukas, i.e. Lucas, is dressed in one of his million footy pajama outfits. He's holding a fire truck in one hand and a tractor in another. He looks up with his giant blue eyes, little old man features on his baby face, and grunts his hello. Lucas doesn't talk yet, but he communicates in sign language and several types of grunts. His mom rushes in the kitchen and lets me know that today looks like it might be a nice day to go outside, even though it is March in Chicago. It's nice out. By the time she leaves, it's almost 7 a.m. She kisses Lucas while he's in my arms and tells us to have a great day. Lucas's parents are very nice to me. His dad is a Brazilian immigrant who came to America to become a pediatric cardiologist. His mom is a nurse practitioner for babies with cancer. They have good hearts, and it shows. They met in college, got married, moved to Chicago, pursued their careers. I was hired while Lucas's mom was on maternity leave. During my interview, both Lucas's mom and grandma were impressed at how quickly I was able to get Lucas to sleep in my arms. I love Lucas. He is my little guy, and I am most definitely one of his favorite people. I take Lucas into the kitchen to make breakfast. I sit him on the counter and explain to him what I'm doing. I know his parents do not do this with him. They don't engage with him as I do. Don't get me wrong, they love him, and they talk to him, but they don't connect with him the same way I do. They like to speak in high-pitched baby talk and usually let him roam around while they work on their computers or do stuff on their phones. I know their jobs are very demanding, which is why I take the time to give Lucas all the love and attention I know they wish they could. They appreciate it and let me know every chance they get. I measure out a cup of steel-cut oats for me and lay out all the ingredients for Lucas's omelet, hash brown sausage breakfast. He sits on the counter and points to the eggs, directing me to crack them in a bowl. "What's next, Lucas?" I say. He points to the whisk and the utensil caddy. "Good job," I reply, and he claps his little hands together, feeling very proud of himself. He loves watching the eggs go into the pan. He likes handing me the cheese. I put it in his omelets because he enjoys my Emerald impersonation. "Bam!" I exclaim as I throw a handful of shredded cheese into his omelet, and he claps for me. I take an exaggerated bow while the omelet's brown. We get his favorite part of making the breakfast, which is nuking the Jimmy Dean sausages. I point to the numbers 4 and 5 in the microwave. He presses them, and without direction, the start button right afterwards. "Ooh," he reacts, where the tray inside the microwave starts spinning. Lucas has been helping me cook since he could sit up without toppling over. My animated breakfast making takes twice as long, but it keeps him entertained so he doesn't get bored and wants to get off the counter. Lucas and I are homies, yo, and our morning routine is a clear reflection of that. At about noon, I decide to take Lucas to the Children's Museum. You guys, I don't know why they call it a children's museum. There are no artifacts of or historical references. There are no guided tours you go on to teach kids anything. There's no art created by famous child artists or any exhibits. that are about the history or contribution children have made to the world. No, the Children's Museum is a series of playpens designed to keep children entertained and corralled while their parents and immigrant nannies sit around and check their Facebooks or zone the fuck out. However, Lucas's parents sprung for a membership so we could go when we wanted, and we do it pretty often. So while I have opinions about the Children's Museum, Lucas loves the damn place, and that's what matters. I love taking babies on trips, especially on the bus or train. Most privileged babies do not get to ride public transportation, which is a shame because it's one of the easiest and safest ways to expose children to people unlike them. I did it with my son, and he turned out to be an all right adult. I believe that my son Xavier is one of the reasons Lucas's parents hired me. Honestly, who wouldn't? Xavier, well, this has been written a while ago, but he graduated college in May, y'all. So, and he's a scientist, so yeah, of course. And I rode the bus everywhere with him. We get on the Graham bus going east to Navy Pier, and Lucas loves the bus. He loves all kinds of vehicles, fire trucks being his favorite, buses being a close second. I parallel park our Cadillac of a stroller. These fucking things are so huge, y'all. Into one of the reserved spaces. I lock the wheels and sit him in the seat directly in front of him. And instead of taking my phone, I use the 30-minute ride to talk to Lucas and play peekaboo. There is never a time I'm not having a conversation or playing with this kid. As I said, he's my homie, and why wouldn't he be? I spend 50 hours a week with him, more than any human in my life. I look up from our game to see two older white ladies in the seats across the aisle staring at us with curious side eye. I can tell that they want to ask me if Lucas is my child. It's annoying because they could ask. However, they continue to stare and then smile awkwardly at me, and I make eye contact with them. I smirk and chuckle to myself, slightly shaking my head. Lucas and I look nothing alike, y'all. Despite his dad being Brazilian, Lucas is white passing. He has straight sandy blonde hair, an untannable pale skin, blue eyes. I, on the other hand, come off as racially ambiguous. I pass for different ethnicities depending on the day and how I wear my hair. I will never be mistaken for being white, though, not with my frizzy dark hair, big juicy lips and dark features, never. So I don't acknowledge these women or give them a clue about who I am. I let them assume and wonder, and I can't wait to get off this nosy ass bus. We arrive at Navy Pier, Chicago's touristy cesspool of transplants and privilege. Lucas points to the Ferris wheel looming over the pier and squeals with joy. I love and hate the pier sometimes. On the one hand, I love that we have something like it, but why does it have to be so A, fucking expensive, and B, so wide? I mean, it drives me nuts, but it ain't shit. I can't do anything about it. Growing up, the only time I attended Navy Pier was on school field trips. You guessed it, the Children's Museum. Without a doubt, that's where we went. Without a doubt, I have gone to Navy Pier more in 2 years with Lucas than I have in the almost 40 years of living in Chicago. I could say that about most of Chicago's attractions, the Sears Tower, Second City, Wrigley Field, Grant Park. I grew up poor in Humboldt Park, and for the most part, those places do not cater to people like me. And if everyone wants to argue with me about that, they can bring it. I mean, all these places have some community outreach or Poor People's Day, so they can allow themselves to say that they give a crap about brown and black communities without actually having to give a crap about brown and black communities. After weaving our way through the velvet rope maze, I pick Lucas up and go straight past the castle area this museum has the nerve to call an exhibit. Unless by exhibit, they're talking about the gendered behavior and fuckery exhibited in this area, y'all. I mean, in which case, it's a fantastic fucking exhibit. Inside this fake castle, young girls dress as princesses and boys stab each other with wooden swords. Lucas and I will have no part of this. We walk straight through this bootleg version of Game of Thrones and take the elevator up one floor to the open play area. Today, the museum has scattered a bunch of miniature catapults on this big green carpet. Covering the floor with catapults are a ton of colorful, tiny little pom-poms that children and their parents are encouraged to shoot across the room. Lucas lets out an excited scream at the sight of the flying pom-poms and makes his way to a catapult. Sitting across the carpet from us, a Chadling and his grandma. Or mom. I don't know. I can't tell because she's white, and she could easily be his old ass mama and his young ass grandma. I don't know. Plus, I don't hear this kid call her mom or grandma. It's clear that this woman is dressed way too elegantly to be at the Children's Museum. She's wearing her hair in this hairspray business-like bouffant and has an entirely made-up face. Entirely. And I can smell her perfume, which to me smells fancy. That means, as in, not white diamonds from Marshalls. She's got on these accessories, jeweled earrings, big face watch, a diamond tennis bracelet, a ring on every finger. The works. I look her over and start to lean more towards grandma on account of the 4-leaf clover brooch and what looks like a pair of monogram cufflinks. Ladies, you are doing the most, I think. I I look back to Lucas, who is walking towards the woman's Chadleen. I watch him and realize why Lucas is headed towards him. Chadleen has hoarded all the pom-poms in this V-shaped space between his legs. I watch Lucas try to grab one, and Chadleen pushes Lucas's hand away, letting out a whine that is half Fran Drescher and half fire truck siren. No, like it is. It's just like that. And these are mine. I was here first. I look over at his grandmommy, and she has this look on her face that reminds me of a way I look when I'm forced to tell someone who can never be wrong that they're wrong. She looks like half exasperated, part constipated. It's not a comfortable look. It's like, and I can tell that she doesn't see or deal with this child often, or has no idea how to say no to him. Go away, Chadleen rudely says to Lucas. I reach for Lucas, who has managed to get his hands on some of the pom-poms and is completely unfazed by this child's aggressive behavior towards him. He keeps doing what he wants to do, something I really admire about toddlers. They do whatever the fuck they want. Lucas doesn't give any fucks about what's ruining Chadleen's day, just as long as he gets to play. Go away, Chadleen yells again. I wait for his grandmommy to say something about her kid's selfish-ass behavior. She finally opens her mouth and says in a nasally, Long Island-y kind of accent, well, Chad, let him take the balls. I smile thinking, you about to get it, Chadleen. He'll get bored and you can get them back. Plus, he doesn't even know how to use the catapult by himself. Wait, what? Did she really just justify Chadleen's shitty behavior? Did she just make it okay for this little colonist in training to hoard the pom-poms? They aren't his. They're for everyone, I think. She gives me this Mother of the Year nod as if it's doing me a fucking favor. I watch her do this over and over with different children that attempt to take the pom-poms. Oh, he's leaving soon, it seems. They'll give them right back. He's only going to take them for a little while. She does not want to do anything to encourage him to share or be selfless. I can't deal with this woman, and also her perfume is making me nauseous. Fuck this. Lucas, we going to Kids Town. Okay, Kids Town, aka abandon your kid town. Seriously, if parents want to break from their badass misbehaving kid, then this is the place to leave them. Kids Town is another exhibit in the museum that lets kids pretend that they're at a car wash, and a bus, and a grocery store, and a kitchen. Basically, if kids want to act like adults, this is the place to be. We enter, Lucas is excited to get on the bus, but he knows that from previous visits, we need some money. He gets over to the grocery store where there's usually a bunch of colorful bills in a tiny plastic register. Lucas walks over to the register and opens it to find that it's empty, which isn't unusual, but after checking the other registers and the money box, it's become apparent that there is no money in Kids Town today. I'm scanning the room to see if any other kids are playing with money, and I see him, little Chatty Madoff, over in the corner. This boy, who is a couple years older than the rest of the kids, stands at the end of the grocery store counting all the money. He has fanned it out like a deck of cards and is taunting all the other kids with their hands out like peasants, like no joke. It is straight up Lord of the Flies in this bitch right now. This kid, he reminds me of what I imagine a young Donald Trump was probably like. He repeatedly takes his rack of money, fans it out in his hand, uses it to fan himself, and then fans it at the other children, putting the money within their reach and then snatching it back. Look at all my money, he sneers. His attitude is triggering, y'all. He reminds me of Matt Foley, a guy I've known since grade school who called me racist on Facebook because he felt that black and brown people were calling him a monarch was the equivalent to black and brown people being shot and murdered in the streets by police. He reminded me of Andrew Zernicki, who called me a fat whore because I told him his privilege was showing. He reminds me of all the men who, when they were little boys, had no one around to check them. Well, Chetty, today is not your day, my friend, I think. I casually walk over to the grocery counter and stand nearby waiting for him to drop his guard. He fans the money on the counter again, and as soon as it's laid out, I snatch it all up. Chatty tries to stop me, and his hand grazes mine as he attempts to grab the money, but he's too late. I laugh at his weak-ass snatch game. He gives me the most "I can't believe you just did that" look I've ever received. He purses his lips together, the corner of his mouth stretching down his face, and I know he wants to cry. He says nothing but lets out a big ol' before he goes to his mom, who's been watching us the entire time. Meanwhile, I distribute the money, rewarding it to 6 or so children who've been fighting the good fight. I look over at Chatty Madoff's mom for some kind of acknowledgement of his behavior. She puts her arms out to her side and gives me the good looking out shrug. There's tiredness in her face. That says that she knows Chatty and she knows Chatty's gonna drive her crazy about this money debacle for the rest of the day. She looks as if she's used to dealing with this little version, this light version of a more robust version of him at home. I don't feel bad for her or him or them. A part of me wants to be empathetic, but boys like this grow up to be men. And it's her and her husband that allowed this to happen. It would have cost her nothing but time and maybe a little patience to check this boy. Her apathy and the apathy of all the parents like her doesn't make me feel bad for her. It pisses me off, especially when that same apathy creates the men that think they can walk all over people like me. I grab Lucas and leave. Fuck this place, I think. But tell Lucas it's 4 p.m. and the museum is gonna close anyway. On the bus ride home, I'm tired, y'all. I'm tired. A day of dealing with all the little chads of the world is exhausting. I'm sitting in the seat next to Lucas feeding him goldfish crackers when a man in his late 50s or early 60s with salt and pepper hair leans over from across the aisle and says to me, "Hey beautiful, is that your baby?" He's cute, just like his mama. My face scrunches up as I awkwardly smile but do not thank him. Instead, I remain focused on keeping Lucas awake. I say aloud to Lucas that he has to stay awake for his mommy so that his mommy doesn't have to deal with him being awake all night. I want this man to know Lucas is not my child in hopes that he respects that I am working and hopefully leaves me alone. He leans over the aisle again and in a breathy, pervy voice says, "I wish you could be my nanny." I roll my eyes so hard I almost fall the fuck to sleep, y'all. That doesn't deter him. My eye roll might as well have been a hip roll calling him hither. "Why you in a mood? You tired?" I turn my body slightly to give him a more obvious message, but he keeps on. "You look tired. He must have had you running around all day. I wish I could run around all day with you." Now I turn my entire back to him, creating a wall between me and between him and the baby. I can feel him staring at my ass. I can feel him looking me up and down, and he's mumbles some bullshit about how a man can't even be nice to a woman anymore. I keep my attention on Lucas, but I want to curse this motherfucker out, you guys. I want to turn around and tell him that he is not nice. I want to say, "Fuck you. Ain't nobody trying to go home with your old ass. Ain't nobody got time for your weak ass game and your weak ass personality. If you want to be nice, you let women be. If you're gonna be nice, you take the hints and apologize for making me feel uncomfortable. Scratch that. I want to fight this dude. This man needs a legit ass whooping by a woman. He ain't like the little chads at the Children's Museum where words might help them. There's more hope in the little chads. I'm like this man who is set in his ways and I'm not the person who can fix him. But I don't say or do any of what I'm thinking. I don't want Lucas to see me that way or put him in danger. I don't want his parents to fire me. I don't want to lose my job. I love Lucas. So I bite my tongue and I let this man say what he wants until he gets off the bus. We get to Lucas's house just as his parents arrive in time for them to feed him dinner. They ask me how our day went. I don't tell them about the chads. I don't tell them about the man on the bus. I don't tell them that I'm tired. I tell them Lucas had a wonderful time at the Children's Museum and showed them all the pictures I took throughout the day. They ooh and ah at the pictures of their little boy merely having a great day with his nanny. I give Lucas a big hug and tell them that maybe tomorrow we'll just go to the park. His parents thank me for my service and I go downstairs to wait for my Uber. Francisco is mopping the lobby floors as the car arrives to take me home. "Good night," he says, to which I reply, "We will see." And then he laughs. Thanks.